Let's to order.
Yes, I will call the February 28th regular town council meeting to order at 6:01. Roll call, Mayor Mark Sukup,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brett Hansen.
Here.
Councilmember Lisa Lake. Here. Councilmember Robert Oxmacher.
Present.
Councilmember Luke Wagner.
Here.
Aaron. I don't want to set you up for failure. I'm going to ask you for amendments to the agenda, but I think we do, don't we, because of what Carolyn's going to add, or is that just it's not an amendment, a agenda change?
No, when we get to, no, that's not an amendment.
Okay, great. So nothing else, right, Aaron?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Public comment, Melissa.
Okay, we have Bill Jenkins.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Bill Jenkins. I live at 5507 Sugarloaf Court. Good evening, Council. Last week at the State of the Town public meeting, Mayor Sukup raised the issue and importance of property rights. I'm a strong believer in property rights. I'm also a strong believer in citizen rights, as the two are intimately intertwined. To quote Mayor Sukup, a person who owns a piece of property has a right to build it within certain conditions, end quote. I'm assuming those conditions conform to, and this is an important distinction, existing zoning and building codes. Again, to quote Mayor Sukup, you don't have a right to tell your neighbor he or she can't build 2 stories on his house because it's going to block your view of the tree down the street, end quote. I agree with this, assuming the 2 stories conforms to existing zoning and building codes. The citizens of Timnath also have rights and expectations that the elected officials of the town will protect those rights. It is a reasonable expectation that neither elected nor appointed officials would recommend nor approve new property rights to an individual when those new property rights would impair the existing property rights of all of the citizens of the town of Timnath. To use an example similar to Mayor Sukup, a person who builds a house within a town that doesn't allow outdoor music venues with their attendant noise operating until late in the evening, intense lighting that lights up the evening sky, and exceedingly tall structures and netting that imperil wildlife and destroy views has a right and an expectation that new property rights will not be granted to an individual to allow conditions that impair all of our citizens' rights. This is not a fine line, but really common sense. Many of the citizens of Timnath, including my family, moved here because it's a beautiful community with outstanding views,
10
marvelous
seconds, Dr. Jenkins.
How much?
10 seconds.
Well, I'm almost done.
No, you did that
Marvelous
last time too.
sunsets, abundant wildlife, great schools, and wonderful open spaces and trails. What citizens
Your
did
time's
not
up, Dr.
move
Jenkins.
here for is outdoor music venues that
Dr.
operate until
Jenkins, your time's
midnight.
up. Your time's up.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor.
Melissa?
Cliff Nancaro.
Good evening, council. My name is Clifford Nancaro. I'm at my home at 6756 Covenant Court. Timnath 80547. And you know, in 30 years of military experience, I did learn that if you're not communicating successfully, perhaps you ought to change the frequency. So I've composed a poem. Don't worry, it's not Beowulf. Timnath, east of Topgolf's nets, the town that only now regrets that once it had a golden chance. Invite another to the dance. The plan was clear, clean, green, serene. But now, alas, what might have been. If only those who once elected heard the people and respected their call to seek another way and slowed the train, the runaway. The river could we not have featured, preserved, enhanced for all the creatures living there, that special place. Eagles, herons now displaced, and migrant songbirds taking flight simply to avoid the lights, burning late into the nights, till last call rings well after 1 and masks the quiet river's run. Native forebears once gave thanks while meeting here along the banks for bison, deer, and antelope and snow upon the rocky slopes. Now Topgolf towers that all can see dishonor nearby council tree. Could we really not have gauged the impact of this golfing cage on town, on place, on workers' wage? This site once viewed as heritage, while current owners couldn't see the blemish on their legacy. Many spoke to those who lead. Hear us, please, and then take heed of voices of community. Don't miss this opportunity. And when our kids and grandkids ask, were you not up to the task? Will we respond, we're sorry, honey. It was all about the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa.
That's it.
Okay, thanks. Consent agenda. Does anybody have any concerns there? Could I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passed as said. Reports. Mayor and council reports. Council?
I would just like to thank everyone from the town that helped us with the State of the Town address. I think that was really well done. And although it was the 5 of us up there speaking, it's a whole team and everyone in the town. So I just want to take time to recognize that. I thought it was really good. So thank you to everyone who helped make that happen.
Anything? Finance report, Lisa. Okay. Community development, anything in addition to add, Matt?
Nothing to add.
Engineering report, Don, anything to add?
No, sir.
Staff report, anything to add, Chief Jones? Okay. Staff report.
Sorry, Mayor, there was a monthly and there was an annual police
Okay.
staff report.
All right. All right, going on to business, 6A, resolution number 14, series 2023, a resolution for the Flockhart Harmony Minor Subdivision. And I think we've got a request to table that.
Correct. The applicant was not available tonight, so they have requested to table the item to the March 14th meeting.
Do I have a motion to table resolution number 14, series 2023?
I move to table resolution 14, series 2023 to March 14th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Resolution number 14, series 2023, a resolution for the Flockhart Harmony Minor subdivision has been tabled. Ordinance number 5, series 23, an ordinance amending the town budget for the 2023 budget year. Lisa.
Good evening. What you have before you is a request to amend the town budget for 2023 for expenses that we anticipated to be complete in 2022, but due to timing and different things, the expenditures aren't going to occur until 2023. So what it is about 382,000 in public works for a snow plow. 238,500 for the PD building, 110,000 for the community park, 60,000 for the reservoir trail and park, and 65,000 for Wild Wing, and 80,000 for broadband analysis. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
I'm going to make a comment, and you correct me, Lisa, if I'm wrong, but all of these items are carryovers from 22 to 23. So it's monies that were budgeted in 22, unspent in 22, and we now have available in 23, and they have already been approved once in 2022.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
It's a public hearing.
Oh, public hearing, that's right. Is there anybody?
I will open the public hearing at 6:12 and there's no one signed up. I will close the public hearing at 6:12.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 5, series 2023?
I move to approve ordinance number 5, series 2023, an ordinance amending the town budget for the 2023 budget year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ordinance number 5, series 2023, an ordinance amending the town budget for the 2023 budget year passed unanimously. Resolution number 15, series 2023, a resolution changing Latham Parkway to Colorado Boulevard. Kevin.
Thank you, Mayor. Pretty straightforward, based off of our discussion at the last council meeting, to have Latham Parkway, also known as Larimer County Road 1 and Wealth County Road 13, to be changed to Colorado Boulevard within the town limits, which is currently roughly from River Pass Road, just about a quarter mile north of Mulberry. So that entire stretch is what this resolution would be proposing, is to change that stretch to Colorado Boulevard to be consistent with the surrounding communities.
We have any discussion? We had a robust discussion before. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 15, 2023-02-21, resolution renaming Latham Parkway to Colorado Boulevard?
I move to approve resolution number 15, series 2023, a resolution changing Latham Parkway to Colorado Boulevard.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Resolution 15, 2023. Is that just a date? Yeah. A resolution renaming Latham Parkway to Colorado Boulevard. Passed unanimously. Resolution number 16, series 2023, resolution approving amendments to the special district policy.
Thank you.
Carolyn.
Thank you. So you have before you proposed changes to the special district policy of the town of Timnath. And the purposes of, I'll walk you through the purposes real quickly. First of all, to clarify when an application for a service plan can be submitted, because right now there's not a timing. And so we sometimes have service plans submitted before properties even annexed into the town, or before there's sufficient land use approvals that the staff can actually review the capital improvement plan and the finance plan that are incorporated into that service plan with sufficient detail. The other changes are to clarify that there can be a submittal fee for the service plan review amendments, and that the applicant is also responsible for the town costs. That after approval of a service plan, if a metropolitan district has a special request from the town, they would also be responsible for reimbursing the town for its actual costs. And to clarify the submittal requirements and the notice requirements for a public hearing. And also to make just a few changes to conform to the Special District Act. We put together the proposed changes to this policy. I worked with staff on them, and then we sent them out to 5 special district law firms that represent special districts and metropolitan districts within the boundaries of the town to get any comments and feedback that they have. We've received 1 set of comments in response to that is incorporated into your meeting packet. And that was from the law firm White Bear and Ankley. And they made a request that we think is a good request. The proposal that was before you had originally stated that a service plan may be submitted after the preliminary plat has been approved, with an exception that the staff could waive that in circumstances where it wasn't appropriate. But White Bear and Ankley requested instead that the preliminary plat could be approved at the same meeting as the service plan so that they could be reviewed simultaneously. And I talked with Mr. Toronto about that. He had no concerns about those being reviewed at the same time. So I have a proposed change to the policy that was included in the meeting packet, and I will read that to you right now. So in section 3A of the special district policy, I'm going to read that whole section. The change would now allow for that simultaneous approval of, at the same meeting, of a preliminary plat and a service plan so that they could be submitted and reviewed at the same time and then approved at the same hearing. So it would now read, petitioners may file a proposed service plan for organization of a new Title 32 district at any time after the property proposed to be included within the initial boundaries of the district has been annexed into the town, and an applicant has submitted for a preliminary plat for a significant portion of the property to be included within the initial boundaries of the district, with sufficient detail to allow the Community Development Department to review the financial plan and the preliminary infrastructure plan. Approval of the service plan will typically be scheduled for the same meeting as or after approval of the preliminary plat. At the discretion of the Community Development Department, the town may allow a proposed service plan to be filed prior to submission of a preliminary plat. So if the town council is amenable to that change, then you could move to approve the special district policy as submitted, but with that modification. And I have handed out a copy to the town council of that proposed language change.
Okay. Any council member have questions or comments?
At first glance, this seems to make sense, but is there something that brought this to our attention, or was it just kind of a routine review of our policy? Or
the main thing was that service plans were being submitted too early, and we were having to go back to applicants and say, we can't review that yet. There's not enough detail. So we had one submitted for a property that had not even been annexed into the town yet, and for another one that was just much prior to preliminary plat review and approval. And so staff felt that they did not have sufficient understanding of the proposed development to review those service plans. So we thought it makes sense to have a consistent policy about when the service plans can be submitted.
okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 16, series 2023, a resolution approving amendments to the Timnath Special District Policy as amended on 3A.
I move for approval of the resolution approving amendments to the Timnath Special District Policy, including the 3A amendment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Resolution number 16, series 2023, a resolution approving amendments for the Timnath Special District Policy passed unanimously. Resolution number 17, series 2023, a resolution approving changes to the Timnath Town policy regarding Timnath Reservoir. Matt Blakely.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Every year we bring forward some adaptations to the policy based on things we found in the previous year that may or may not have worked exactly correctly, or we wanted to make a little bit more clear or safer, or just add in some minor changes. So we actually took a bunch of staff recommended changes, and I've outlined them in the staff report. I won't go through them all, but I'll go through a couple of them. We took those to the pros committee on February 8th and got unanimous support of these changes from the pros committee. The pros committee also brought forward a couple of changes themselves. The first, the couple of the bigger changes, we
Hey,
actually.
Matt, just
Yeah.
a sec, because this was laid out so well and it has a red line. I'm not sure you need to read to us what is on there unless somebody on the council would like that.
I actually do think it's helpful just so that everyone, tuning in gets a better understanding if they haven't had a chance to read it. I don't think we need to go through word for word, but definitely the highlights.
So if you could give a summary of the main points then.
I'll hit the ones that are probably the most pertinent to the folks that are listening in. One of the significant ones, we tried the experiment with 26 feet boat last length of boat, and there was one individual that came in and that boat was clearly too large for the reservoir and had some challenges out there. So we've dialed that back to the 24 foot. We have a few administrative changes that we brought forward that are pretty minor. The ones that the pros committee brought forward actually recommended increasing the motorized boat permit limit from 60 to 65 because the increase in population and folks that live near the reservoir. I think there is going to be more expectation that there's a little bit more available to people for an annual permit. So we've gone to 65 and then allow staff some discretion to go up to 70 should we bump into that 65 cap, give ourselves a little more cushion there and not have to be bound up by that limit. So in a sense, it would go to 70, but I think we're going to see how it plays out with the 60 to 65 is where we're focusing in on. The other changes, we took out the limits on household limits for non-motorized boats because we had removed the total limits on non-motorized boats. So I think we've trying to remove some of those administrative problems that we were having there. I think those are the main ones. The other thing I did want to point out is we're actually going to release the permits in stages this year so we can administratively deal with this and not have the difficulty we had with the crashing of the system with everybody trying to get in at the same time. So we're going to do a week of just motorized permits and then 2 weeks for other residents, shore permits and non-motorized boat permits for those 2 weeks. And then a week, well, then the last opening would be for everybody else, but specifically the GMA residents and Colorado anglers would be on the last docket. But those dates are in the packet and we're going to start publishing that to everybody here in the next week or so. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I really like, and it was done well here, I thought, was the fact that the policy was identified and a red line version, so it's easy to see the changes. I think that's incredibly helpful to anybody that reads a document. Any comments? Luke?
Oh, go ahead, Brett.
Luke.
Oh, sorry. Can you explain remove the 4-pass break for administrative reasons?
So the challenge is in the system that we have, which is it's pretty analog, if you will. It doesn't have a lot of back end calculation capabilities. So it's kind of a form, and then we're doing a lot of things in the background to get people the right amount. So like if you buy 3, you get 1 free. It started, everybody has to do the math on the home, on the calculator basically, and then tell them people how much it is versus it just automatically being like, here's the, so it was just slowing down our processing a little bit. And we didn't see, I mean, it is maybe a bonus to folks, but it's not a significant impact either in our minds.
Is there plans to upgrade the system in the future to handle these type of things?
Yep. Next year, we're going to be looking at like a more customized system. We were using kind of a last year system, converting it to this year. And so it's a work in progress. But next year, we're going to have a much more robust system.
Do you anticipate that price break coming back, or would it be?
If the council would like that to stay there, we can actually make it work the way it is. We can make it still the same way, the 3 get 1 free kind of a thing. But it was just more of a challenge on our end.
Lisa, was it the pros that were they in favor of the?
Yeah, I don't think they saw that being a significant concern.
Okay.
That piece of it.
Okay, thank you.
Brett.
Matt, you mentioned this last year we experimented essentially with 26-foot boat lengths. Are there any other rules that we're essentially unsure about their long-term viability that we're keeping a close eye on this year that we're experimenting with essentially?
The bow fishing and the ice fishing was one we were watching pretty closely. We did an experiment last year on bow fishing. Basically, we had a instructor from CYO come out and work with our staff, and we tried the bow fishing thing at a staff level and found that it's not something we want to open to the public. So that was one why we actually put it in here. The ice fishing, the ice was determined it's too unstable and the way the water's up and down all the time, this is not a place that we want to actually
Being the water
encourage.
depth was about 2 feet. The ice isn't going to be very.
The mud will be the bigger problem actually in the bottom. So, but those were ones we were watching pretty close.
And things for this coming year, are there things of that nature that?
We feel like we're dialing it in pretty tight now.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you.
Yes, Lisa.
So this is just a minor thing that maybe we can look at the next time we update it. For the hours of operation, the April 1st until Thursday before Memorial Day is almost exactly the same as the Tuesday following Labor Day until March 31st. So I was just thinking that down the road, maybe we just have the same length. One of them I think says 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The other says 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or dusk. So maybe we can just have summer hours and then the rest of the year, since they're pretty much the same. I don't think it's super important to change it this time around, but maybe the next time we update that.
sure. That sounds like that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and then just to kind of give an overview, the pros did look at this, and the points that Matt pointed out were discussed at that meeting, and they were all in support of all of these changes.
I'm going to look at Matt and Lisa real quick. Is that something you'd like to change? I mean, it sounds like you're agreeing and you're asking, so.
We can make if you guys want to condition the approval tonight, I can make the change in the policy as it is.
I mean, I think it would clean up that language a little bit. Like if I go out on March 31st versus April 1st, like I'm not going to know. And it does say, or other alternative hours as may be posted. So I feel like that kind of covers all of that.
Yep, we can certainly make that.
So Carolyn, can we approve it conditioned upon, give me some wording.
Yeah, so it would be a resolution to approve or a motion to approve the resolution number 17, series 2023 with the modification regarding the hours that was discussed at the meeting.
Okay.
Got
You
it.
good?
Yep, got it.
You good?
Yep.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 17, series 2023, a resolution approving changes to the Timnath town policy regarding Timnath Reservoir?
I move to approve, and I don't have the number here in front of me, but with the modification of changing hours of operation as discussed at the meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, resolution number 17, series 2023, a resolution approving changes to the town policy regarding the Timnath Reservoir along with a modification were approved unanimously. Resolution number 18, series 2023, a resolution adopting master plan for Wild Wing Park. Brian.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We are here today to look at the proposed concept master plan for Wild Wing Park. We did do quite a bit of outreach for this. We went through 2 different phases of outreach. We did a programming outreach, and then we developed concepts based on those programs. Then we brought those concepts out to the public and got a fair amount of feedback with that. I think we were really pretty happy with the responses we got on both of those outreaches. The pros committee did also approve the concept plan that you're seeing in front of you without any concerns, actually. So I think we spent a fair amount of time working through concepts and reviewing the feedback we got and trying to incorporate as much of that as possible. I can kind of walk quickly through the plan, and then I would like to talk about kind of what the expectations are for phase 1 as well. So the plan is kind of organized around the existing soccer fields that happen kind of in the middle, the south middle of the field of the existing park. We wanted to preserve those. We had done a lot of work in the past to make sure that those fields are as healthy as possible. And really, we want to make sure that we're preserving the ability to have those activities there. So we've really focused the new development on the north side and then the east side. Working from the north down, we've got 2 dog parks that are just over an acre together. So a little bit bigger than the community park dog park here. Also oriented a little differently. They've got the large dog park is really long. So we got a lot of comments about people wanting to play like fetch and having a long runway there. I can tell you that dog park is further than I can throw the tennis ball with a chuck it. Now, I'm not a professional in any means, but you know, my dog would definitely be happy in there. There's also a small dog park there as well. So, you know, you can kind of keep those 2 different types of dogs separated. Also along the northern edge, we have a community garden that's right up against the Wild Wing patio homes there. We got a lot of comments about the community garden. It ranked very high in the initial programming survey, and a lot of people had opinions about where it was located in the concepts. And this was by far the most preferred location. Just south of that, we have a native open space area. The one kind of overarching comment we got on all the concept plans is there's a little bit too much stuff happening in here. People wanted to see a little bit more openness in the park design. We kind of are allowing that native space to become a buffer over there. If in the future there wanted to be improvements in there, I think we could cross that bridge when we come to it, but we weren't showing anything as part of the master plan. We are redoing all of the parking lots as part of the master plan. We'll talk about kind of the phasing of those a little bit when we talk about phasing. But, you know, we would put in a asphalt curb and gutter parking lot, you know, similar to what we see in all of our other parks. Then we've got the courts kind of pushed up in the corner there, the northeast corner. The goal there was to keep the activity of those courts kind of buffered from all the existing residents. So kind of working from east to west, we've got 2 tennis courts, 4 pickleball courts, a basketball court, and a sand volleyball court. All of those courts scored relatively high in the programming survey. So we wanted to make sure that we were getting all those needs met. Then working south from there, we have what we're calling the core of the park. So there's a large adaptive playground. We have looked at you know, some sampling of equipment to make sure that we get the right size and we have the right kind of numbers budgeted for it. But we haven't made any design decisions on that. So that shape will probably ebb and flow a little bit, but then there's a nice kind of more passive turf area that wraps around there and separates that from the courts. We've got a pavilion similar in size to phase 1 of the community park, and then a restroom building that has, it's a little bit bigger than the phase 2 restroom building because we're going to include 2 garage bays there for public works. So they can store mowers and equipment up there, extra irrigation parts. That way they won't have to trailer the mowers all over the place. That really causes, it's a headache for them, and it causes a lot of disturbance when they're unloading and loading. They need a lot of space to get that done. Then over adjacent to the parking lot, we have the food truck court. So there's two areas there that are on crusher fines. So if we wanted to have a little food truck rally, we could have probably 6 or 7 food trucks over there. If we had more than that, we have some other places where we could kind of stage them around and kind of create that environment. We are moving south on the east side then. We're kind of redoing that main entry from Latham Parkway. And we're showing the existing house as being removed. When we did the concept plans, we did 2 concept plans with it in, 2 concept plans with it out. After we did the concept plans, we had our building official go out and do an inspection there. I included the inspection report in the council packet. It really needs a whole lot of work to bring it to any kind of commercial status. And additionally, in the last year, I think we've seen a real large uptick in vandalism there. People kind of they've broken the sliding glass doors, they've broken windows, they've got in and vandalized things on the inside. It's really kind of at the periphery of kind of the park. There's not a lot of oversight there except for, our patrols that would run on Latham. And it's just kind of secluded and it's in pretty rough shape. So we're recommending that be removed. We did look kind of at if there was any real significant historic value to that, and we didn't find that there was an overwhelming something that would outweigh kind of the kind of challenges that building had. And then just south of that, the main entry in the would be a proposed area for a skate park. It's kind of a small to medium-sized skate park, but it did rank kind of high in our programming. It also kind of adds to our diversity of recreational opportunities. We don't have a skate park in the first phase or at the community park at all. And there was Matt and I had met with a couple different groups of residents that are kind of proponents of this. So we did kind of earmark a space for it. We did earmark that space specifically because it was very far away from the existing residents. It had good visibility from both the parking lot and from Latham. And, we'll do a bunch of screening on the south side of there to kind of keep that buffered from those existing residents down there to the south. Lots of landscape, lots of trails in there. But that's an overview of the plan. Are there any questions about the plan or the process of how we got here, or why isn't this in there, or why'd you put that there?
Comments? Go ahead, Luke.
So I'm new to this process, and I was just looking, I appreciate all the feedback and how you presented it for residents. In that concept 1 in our packet, we've got use, size, quantity, and then I'm assuming that's the number of respondents, like 17.
Yeah, let me get those pulled up. My Zoom controls are over my. So in concept 1, is this the table?
Yeah, I was just asking questions in general about this. Like, how do I interpret this?
So what we did, so we had an open-ended response. Our preference for the concept review is to have an open house. We had it scheduled and then it was canceled due to inclement weather. We didn't want a bunch of people driving around in the roads for a park kind of open house. So we did an open-ended poll. It was very challenging for us to kind of quantify that information. So what you see is, so on baseball fields, use would be, do we want that use as part of the park? Okay, and then size is, we want more of that thing or less of that thing. And then the quantity is, the size is make it bigger or smaller, and then the quantity is increase or decrease that. So if you're looking at baseball fields, one person advocated for it to be kept, one person advocated for it to be removed, and one person advocated for it to be increased. One that's a little bit better is the community gardens. One person advocated for it to stay there. 5 people advocated for it to remove. 2 people wanted it to be bigger. 1 person wanted it to be smaller. Does that make sense?
Thank you. So my question relates again to the skate park. I see that 17 had it as remove.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you said you received feedback outside of this survey about a skate park?
Yes, we have met twice, I think, with different groups that were interested. We had some kids that met with us that were working on a petition. That was quite a while ago, and I don't think we saw anything back from that. And then we had another kind of work group talk about skate parks and costs and design and those kind of things. When we talk about the phasing, I've got the skate park in the last phase, so we can kind of continue to do outreach about it and see. I think that,
Because this all made sense to me, except for the remove of 17 and nobody wanted
Yep.
anything else. I was just wondering how that
so
came about.
306 people responded. So 17 is kind of a low,
Okay.
that's in the neighborhood of 2%. No,
Not even that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, 5%.
yeah,
Okay,
5%. Yeah, so
Did
Okay.
you have something, Brett?
thank you.
good.
Can we go back to the picture there of your plan there, Brian? You mentioned the Northwest Native Open Space corner there. That there was flexibility in terms of if we decide we want to put something in there, just so I have an idea. I mean, if we want to put a baseball field there in the future, is there room for that? Or is this more of a smaller option?
I think a more like a younger kid recreational
Okay.
baseball field would fit there. A couple different options as baseball fields. We didn't get a lot of push for the baseball.
Oh, I agree. I'm just trying to get a feel for what size we're leaving open.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, it's not like a high school sized field, but it could be a little kid kind of size field.
okay. And then the overlook seating that's near the soccer fields.
Mhm.
These are like bleachers or what is this?
No, so we're envisioning that being kind of like a tiered seating. So there's a bit of slope there, like where the skate park would be is perched up higher than the field. So that could be like rows of boulders where there's kind of informal seating, or there could be something more formal where we do like a seating area, like concrete benches or something like that that are kind of more poured into that
So
grade.
nice bleachers is what you're telling me.
Yes, nice bleachers.
Okay, okay. And that would essentially just be near the one soccer field. We're not planning that near all three that you've got.
Correct. Yeah,
There.
we're really just
Okay.
trying to take advantage of that topography that exists there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all the info, particularly all the info about outreach. I do. It's pretty clear that the decisions with this master plan are being driven by the community. And so I appreciate the immense work you guys did to get the community engaged on this. I know I saw a lot going around there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean,
Lisa or Robert?
Go ahead, Lisa.
I don't want to reiterate anything that's already been said, but the pros committee was fully supportive of all this. The question of the baseball fields came up early on in those discussions. And so what we had talked about was if we decide down the road to do like a backstop or something like similar to the community park, that would be a good option right there. So I think other than that, like I said, the pros was on board with that. The house was a discussion that we had early on and got that evaluated. And other than that, everyone was supportive.
Robert?
First of all, really happy to see the adaptive playground. Thank you for incorporating that. And I think that's a really important thing. It's part of an inclusive community. So really pleased to see that. On the skate park, I see this maybe as something that we have a group of strong supporters, but also a group that has community concerns here and is advocating to remove it. I guess I'm a little encouraged that that's a latter phase so that, we can talk about and work through some of those issues. I appreciate the point that system-wide, we want to have a diversity of services. I note something about if we have a skate park in this park, this is a park that's on essentially the edge of our community, that's on the edge of our growth boundary. I note that this is a location that is quite a distance from our police department. So in terms of getting frequent patrols there and addressing some of those safety concerns, I'm wondering if this park is the best one to be able to accommodate that. And similarly, I wonder about transportation. A skate park is something that's going to draw a population that largely isn't driving. And if it's on the edge of our community, I'm wondering if it's actually very accessible. So I just throw these questions out there. And I think maybe there are things to continue to discuss. I'm curious if some of our surrounding communities that have skate parks, if we've looked at any of their data in terms of crime, vandalism, things like that, and if surrounding communities have experienced problems or if it's largely been a non-issue. I'm not sure if that's something that the police department could help us gather some stats on, but certainly if that's an amenity that we're going to have, I want to make sure that it's a safe amenity. Yeah, I think those are my comments.
Brian, I'm very pleased with what you did, all the work, and it was a beautiful design and beautiful park, well laid out. And I want to keep everything as you have it here for now. I was pleased to hear that the skate parks in the third phase. And if you look at the numbers, you said we went with what the community said, but yet by far the largest against on there was the skate park. I mean, it wasn't even a close second. So I think we need to be careful of that. And I'm not saying eliminate it or anything else. What I am saying though, is when we get to that third phase, we need to do a pretty good community outreach. First off, I totally agree with everything that Robert just got done commenting upon and things to look at and make sure that we've got it set. I like, one of the things I like about the Wild Wing Park though, is I do like the fact that it's out, you know, it's over there by Saratoga Falls, and we're finally supplying some amenities to people in the town that maybe haven't gotten as many as other people in this town. So I like the fact that it's out there, and I like the fact that it'll have easy access because you're right there on Colorado Boulevard now, and you'll and Prospect is right there too. And so you're going to have real great access to that park. So I'm excited about it. I'd like, when you get to the third phase, to retake a look and say, okay, do we have the final design the way we want it?
I totally agree. And I think that I can't remember if it's next year or the following year where we'll be doing I think it's next year we'll be doing the master planning for the Timnath Ranch Community Park, the one that's just north of Bethke. I think that actually might be a better location based on some of your comments, Robert, for a skate park. Like, you know, there's a whole lot of activity that happens around there, a lot more eyes on it probably. So maybe what happens is when we master plan that project, maybe if we get a skate park in there, maybe this changes use in that area when we come to building that third phase, something like that.
Thanks. Great, Joe. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. There you go. I just want to ask one more question. Maybe I missed it, but what was anticipated for the first phase that we're looking at?
I have a spreadsheet for that.
A spreadsheet. Great.
You just made his whole day, you know, an engineer with a spreadsheet's like just.
How do I need to go to Disneyland?
Yeah. A couple things about the budget. So we have a $2.6 million budget this year. And then we do not have funds earmarked in 2024. But there are kind of in the budgeting process at the end of last year, we moved some money around and we front loaded some trails in the reservoir for this year. And then we actually didn't move the phase of trails for the reservoir that was in next year around. So I think there might be some flexibility about how this phase of the park gets constructed. I think we'll do a little bit of work. I want to get some feedback on what you guys want to see in phase one. We have a really high level cost estimate. And we've kind of broken that down by amenity and area. So I can take you guys through that pretty quick. Yes, I can. I was trying to make it so you can see the bottom. Obviously we have some administrative and miscellaneous costs that go with the project. Those are the contractor's operating costs there. But what we did, let me go back to the master plan real quick. So these black lines show kind of the areas that we carved out. So I'm going to just show two examples.
Show the areas that are what?
That are carved out in the cost estimate.
Okay, thank you.
So like, for example, the community garden is a line item in the cost estimate, and it includes everything inside that black shape there. So there's trails that are included with that. There's a lot of landscape that's included with that, as well as the community garden, the water to get to the community garden. So you'll see a number of about $150,000 for the community garden. I wanted to explain that that's not just like we're going to put some beds out there that are going to cost $150,000. There's a lot that kind of goes into that. The second one I wanted to show was kind of the core that we're calling is this big area in here. It spans the full width of the park. It has the trails that kind of come up and connect to that parking lot. All of these things will be kind of tweaked as we get into some actual design, but that we needed to start drawing the line somewhere so we could kind of get some costs put together. So we have the community garden. That total is about $150,000. The dog park is about $280,000. That north parking lot is about a little more than $500,000. The east parking lot is a little bit bigger, so it's about $700,000. That native area is $155,000. I don't actually believe that number. It came out that way in the formulas, but that one doesn't feel right to me. Then we've got our courts, sand volleyball. You can see that's clearly the least expensive because it's sand as opposed to a post-tension slab. But then we've got our basketball, pickleball, and tennis courts. That core area is about $2.5 million. That includes the playground, the surfacing for the playground, the turf area, the restroom building, the pavilion, and all that plaza space and concrete walk. Then we've got the overlook area, which kind of is basically the buffer between the existing soccer fields and the skate park. And then we've got these kind of like the buffer areas that kind of surround the soccer fields out there. Then we have kind of the overlap grading and the utilities. They didn't fit into one category because they kind of touch all the pieces, but I've kind of just divided them up a little bit by phase.
So I'm noticing we're not anticipating any parking lot improvements in the first phase. Are we intending to essentially keep parking as it is?
Well, so there's a,
or is that part of the core? Or?
No, it's not part of the core. And,
okay.
and I spent a good amount of time kind of playing around with these today, trying to look at what the options look like. So if you look at this, the way it's constructed right now, phase one is about $4.8 million. I had so the way the site is oriented today, the east parking lot is in good shape. We don't really need to do anything, and we can keep utilizing that in the same way right now. The north parking lot is kind of where the problem is. There's a drive there that comes back out to Wild Wing Drive, but it's just a dirt road. We haven't done any improvements to it, and people just park off of that. The location of that drive is where the dog park is. So it's like a sweater where you start pulling the string a little bit. If we put that parking lot in, if we put the dog park in, then we need to move the parking lot. So those two things are kind of linked together.
Right.
Those two costs together push that total to be more like $6.2 million. So I was trying to show kind of, a reasonable phase for the first phase. If you guys have direction, we'll evaluate it and kind of bring those back.
Okay, so we're planning on essentially doing the north parking lot together with the dog park because it just makes sense to do those together. But and the east one, I agree with you. It is very usable. We have people use it all the time with the soccer. So,
yeah.
But the intent is that it will stay a dirt parking lot until we get further along.
I got that parking lot in phase 3. So
okay.
kind of what I had for phase 3 was that whole like kind of eastern swath, right? We would take the house out in phase 1 just because it's a hazard. But the rest of that work, the east parking lot, the skate park, all those things over there would kind of be part of that phase 3.
Okay.
It was a struggle for me to say we should spend our front end money to replace a functioning parking lot when we could spend that money on amenities to get to people.
No, I mean, I agree. I look at the dollar amounts for the parking lots, and if you decide to put that in phase 1, you just don't get a lot in the phase 1. So it'd be a very exciting parking lot, but I'd like to get some amenities. So no, I'm just trying to understand the process there. Thank you.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve Resolution number 18, series 2023, a resolution adopting the master plan for Wild Wing Park.
I move to approve resolution number 18, series 2023, a resolution adopting the master plan for Wild Wing Park.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The resolution number 18, series 2023, a resolution adopting the master plan for Wild Wing Park has been approved unanimously. Resolution number 19, series 2023, a resolution approving light gig license agreement right away. Don Toronto.
Yes, sir. We've been at this for a little while. It's been all of us on the engineering and planning side and Carolyn of late to negotiate with Light Gig. This is the first license agreement we've done in just about ever. I think the others were a little bit different. So we looked at this one from the standpoint that it's going to be the model for any future license agreements that we might have. So with that, I'm happy to go over it, but if you have any questions about it, happy to answer.
I think it's obvious my questions, so I apologize, but I just want to make sure I got my arms around it. So this is only for new development.
There is it's both, actually. We think these guys are only going to use it for new development.
So my concern is existing, are they going to be disruptive to those existing homeowners?
They would have to get right. This one, whether it's new or existing, they have to get right-of-way agreements from us.
I agree, but a right-of-way, most of those people are using the right-of-way as their sidewalks / yards.
True.
So I'd like to know, are we going to be impinging upon existing residents on this agreement?
I don't believe so, because I think even if they've told us they're specifically not going into existing areas. This is Light Gig.
So I'd like to know that before I would ever vote for this.
Even if they would, let's just say they came in and asked for approval to go in the right of way, it would be boring. So there wouldn't be any open cut for in existing areas.
And the agreement does require them to put the conditions back to the way they found them.
Oh, sure. But if you've gone to Coaxal in Fort Collins where they're laying their cable, it's a mess for those neighbors that are in there. So they are boring, but
I think we could easily amend this agreement to only be for new developments, and I think Light Gig be happy with that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Light Gig folks are in the audience today if you want to ask them any questions.
Okay. Hi, David. Or Stan. I'm sorry, Stan. Do you guys, let's do this in pieces. So do you agree that we just go to the new for right now?
I know if I was being offered a service that would improve my home, I would personally be okay with them digging something up in my right of way. So I think it just kind of depends, but I also think you're gonna get homeowners of varying opinions when it comes to that.
No.
Well, and that's why I want to deal with it now rather than a aftermath of it. Well, let's stack them. So that was my first question and going on it. Second question is and Stan, if you want to get up there and answer these things, you're welcome to do that. My second question is, this is all going in free of charge to the homeowners, and then it'll be their option to tap into the service?
Stan Everett, 629 Southwood in Windsor. Yes, sir.
Great. And then so this will not provide content, it just access point.
Yes, or a internet service provider only. There's no content in.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Robert.
So, we had the ballot measure asking, should the town investigate broadband? And that's a process that's ongoing. And certainly one option is that the town could provide broadband. And so, I guess one question is entering into license agreements like this, are we creating competition for the town? The answer may be yes, and it may be yes, that's a good thing. So I just offer that out there. How does this license agreement compare to current things with, say, Xfinity or the phone company? Do we have similar agreements with them, or how is this different?
We have different types of agreements with them. And so they're similar in respect to the internet service. They're not, as Stan just said, this particular group's not going to provide content. Some of those others do.
With the content providers and the other utility providers, we have a different form of agreement called a franchise agreement. The franchise agreement is similar to this in what is required, but we are permitted to assess fees in the franchise agreements as well. Because this is not a content distribution or a utility, it doesn't fall under the requirements for a franchise agreement. So it's kind of a different tact because they're a slightly different provider. But what they're required to do and what everybody else is required to do is the same.
So I suppose the strongest argument in favor of this is it creates more options for citizens, and that's a good thing.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Are we passing over any opportunities by, essentially giving up this right away, but not asking anything in return?
Well, it's not just to them. So this is not an exclusive component. So there could be others in the same right of way.
Yeah, I mean, their lines will predominantly be in the utility easement that is behind the right of way, and then they'll be crossing the right of way, most likely perpendicular, unless in special cases. So the same place where Excel is and Comcast is, they'll all be kind of in that same, I mean, the goal is to be in the same trench as all of those utilities. Somebody opens up one trench, everybody goes in there, creates the least amount of impact. And that all happens as the development's being built out, generally before the homes are being built.
Correct. Okay. And then just because we, make this right away available, they would still have the opportunity to choose where they would deploy this. So they could look for the most profitable neighborhoods, choose to implement in one, but not in another. And there's nothing that we could do to, kind of ensure universal access or anything like that. Is that
That's
true?
correct.
Very correct.
Okay.
Stan, do you want to make any comments in general about your project here?
Well, the company's been in existence for a few years. We started in Severance. I do a lot of development in Severance, and rather than Bruce's Bar be the exclusive reason to go to Severance, we wanted to have high-speed fiber optic, 1 gig per house in the subdivisions that we were doing. That was where we started, and the rationale behind that. We are in Wellington, Nunn, Pierce, Alt, Eaton. We really go all the way down towards Platteville. We have towers with our wireless branch of this same business. But for the new developments, we typically are in the 60 to 70% take rate, even though there could be even 2 or 3 additional competitors in there. We're local. If somebody makes a call 30 minutes later, somebody's at their door. Instead of 30 minutes later, you might get a call back. So I think our service is very well received, and we have really high ratings in contrast to other providers. If we want this license agreement to be exclusive to new development, we could add that. I think the crossing agreements and the rest of the process associated with this would have a barrier to us just going willy-nilly wherever we wanted to do. So I think there is some protection from the crossing agreement aspect of this.
Any other questions? Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
I'm not going to propose an amendment. So if anybody wants to, before I ask for a vote, identify yourself. Okay. So resolution number 19, series 2023, a resolution approving light gig license agreement right away. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the resolution approving light gig license agreement right of way.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution number 19, series 2023, a resolution approving light gig license agreement right away. Yeah, was approved unanimously. Thanks, Dan, for talking and helping with us. Resolution number 20, series 2023, a resolution approving town council waivers to Timnath beverage site. Kevin Coble.
Thank you, Mayor. These are actually 3 waiver requests for the Timnath beverage site plan for Harmony Corridor and General Land Use Code design standards. This is for the site plan of the Timnath beverage located just north of Innovate Drive, south of Harmony Road and east of Club Drive. For a 16,000 square foot liquor store. And I do apologize that there was some confusion with some of the packets. So I think one of the ones you guys got says retail fuel station, but it should be a liquor store. Don't know where the confusion came from. We had a couple of versions going around when this was done. So it is for a liquor store, not a retail fuel. The owner is Timnath Realty, represented tonight by Danny Byerly, and the applicant is TB Group, who we have Courtney Stazowitz in the cloud above us. They can answer any questions that you guys might have. The waivers that are being requested are generally to building placement, massing, and articulation. The first waiver request is for the horizontal step backs on the facade for the building. This is a little bit of a difficult one for a liquor store to meet, generally because the perimeter of a liquor store is coolers. So with those being generally square and rectangular in nature, it's a little bit harder to provide some extensive facade step backs to meet that requirement. They are providing a little bit more extreme setbacks in other areas of the building to kind of make up for some of that facade. But they are requesting for some requests or reductions in that. The other main one that they are asking for is transparency with the building for windows and such. Similar with a majority of the building being coolers, it's hard to provide transparency for a majority of the building. So they are actually adding in larger front doors and other windows and other aspects of the building to make up for some of that transparency reduction due to the cooler restriction that they have. And then the last request that they're asking for is actually the CMU setback of the rear setback of 5 feet. This lot already has a built-in 50-foot setback by the way of a tract between this lot and Harmony Road, which actually meets our Harmony Corridor standards. And this setback actually allows them to meet some other code requirements within the Harmony Corridor to reduce that down to 0. And then it also keeps the inline for the visual of down Harmony Road. So with the buildings up to that 50-foot setback, as we would go down, it keeps in line with that. Staff and the DRC have reviewed the site plan and these waiver requests, and both the DRC and staff recommend approval. Like I mentioned, we both have both the owner and applicant available along with staff if you have any additional questions.
Robert?
I do. Certainly, I've reviewed the packet, but we don't have any visuals or anything to look at here, do we?
We'll try. We swapping between Brian and I was.
There is graphs and stuff, but you want some color?
Yeah, and I've reviewed the staff packet, but I think it's just always helpful to
Yep,
see. what
we
we're
do
talking
have
about
some.
here.
We do have some.
Hey, Kevin.
I got it, Courtney.
You sure? Okay.
If they show up. There we go. So this, these are some 3D renderings of the building that's being proposed. The top one is generally if you were from the southeast, so from the parking lot, looking at the building, you see a lot of the windows that they've added in, on the ends, in the middle, larger doors up front to kind of make up for some of the transparency. The one that's kind of in the middle left, that is if you were coming from the east down Harmony Road. These 3D visuals are a little bit hard to depict. There are some step backs with the darker gray visual there on the corner. There's some setback there, and then you can actually see in the middle a little bit of a step back from that one there, from the middle section of the building, to still give some of that setback, which they were able to meet, just not the full intent of the criteria. This visual here is if you were heading down Harmony Road heading east. So this is what you would see, passing Club Drive. They do have a little bit of a gathering area where there's a pergola. And then as you can see, they did a larger setback on that corner to provide that articulation within that visual aspect. And then this last one that you can see here, this is if you were from the parking lot side looking kind of northeast as well.
I appreciate that. And this is essentially the same business that is is that Loveland or Windsor?
Windsor
right there?
Brands, it's a sister store to Brands Beverage. Yep.
And, certainly when this came forward, what I had in my mind was the facility that's over there. And, thought that building would not fit well into the Harmony corridor. I think that, this is an improvement. But I do question if it fully complies with the spirit of the Harmony corridor, really, that being our main street. I understand what we're trying to balance interests here. But for me, it still really has a square, blocky, closed off, not necessarily welcoming appearance. Again, better than the other one. But I'm just curious, are there other ways that we could look to improve this in the spirit of the Harmony corridor standards?
So we, with staff and the DRC, probably went through about 4 or 5 different rounds of review on architecture to get to an architecture that meets the standards of the Harmony corridor. So what is presented here does meet the standards of the corridor, minus the couple of items, the 2 items that I've mentioned with the facade step backs and the transparency. And like I mentioned, those are due to the fact fact of, the nature of the business with coolers. But what they are providing here does meet the material requirements. It does meet the other requirements of facade, the articulation, from that standpoint. And yeah, staff and DRC went through about 4 or 5 different iterations of this design to get it within the Harmony Corridor standards.
Okay, so our thought is what can be done has been done, and we've utilized our creative potential.
Yeah, with the Harmony Corridor standards, it's not for staff to design the building for them. It's up to the applicant to bring forward the creative standard. This does meet what we have set forward for that creative standard. Within that, they do have a use of a lot of different materials within this building. And like I mentioned, the vertical, horizontal step backs, as you see in the middle there with the arching, the angled roofs on the end caps, things that actually mirror even items within our own police station. They took items that were some of the awning overhangs from our own police station, some things like that. They actually did take some different aspects of other buildings within the Harmony Corridor and put it within this architecture.
Okay. I know that we're trying to work with them because of the unique cooler needs.
Yep.
And I get that. It seems like the alcohol sales market is changing with things like, grocery stores having increased opportunities. I'm just wondering what happens if that market changes. This building is no longer a liquor store, and, we're looking to put something else in there. Have we sacrificed design standards trying to accommodate this one specific use when 10 years from now, that we're looking at something totally different here?
Yeah, it would be difficult for us to implement standards like this with this specific use. I understand the concern that if it goes away 10 years from now for some reason, we've got something different. At that point in time, there would be a change of use application that would come in to make sure that, a proposed use does come in, building permits. So there would be changes to a building like this. If it did change to a retail, that would come in the future. The applicant could probably talk about the changing nature of, liquor sales. If you want to hear more on that, because I would not have the slightest clue to that. But it would be difficult with the nature now to provide, this criteria that they couldn't necessarily meet for just with the uncertainty of what the future could bring.
Thanks, Kevin. I guess I just want to throw the opportunity out to the applicant if they had any comments or responses to some of my concerns.
My name's Danny Biley. I'm one of the joint owners with my business partner, Russell Barrett, over here at Brand's Beverage.
And we do need your address.
5131 Sneed Court, Fort Collins, 80528. That's Ptarmigan.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The last thing you brought up was change of use. We've specifically designed brands on the interior based upon the change of the liquor laws in 2018. And so therefore, unless the state of Colorado decides to take over the ABC and basically take alcohol out of the hands of private distributors, we will succeed. It's the mom and pop shop, unfortunately, that's going to be affected by the voting that was done on the grocery store rule that's in there. So it's going to be large liquor stores and it's going to be large grocery stores. But if you want competition and choice, then that's what you're going to do. If you want grocery stores and on the Harmony Corridor, you're going to have a lot less windows than what we've got in there. The main reason for our answer on windows partially was coolers, but we also have a lot of perishable product inside the store. So we cannot have direct heat. To be a conscious person in the neighborhood, this building will be completely run by solar. So therefore we will be green energy and everything else in there because we will use a lot of energy from the coolers, but you're going to get the same thing again from grocery stores that's in there. And so the one thing that we wouldn't be doing is spending the amount of money we're doing if we think we'd be out of business in 10 years. So as Mr. Coble turned around and says, there are challenges to some of the shapes of the building based upon the storage we have. And it's the same thing that you're going to get from certain other retailers that are going to come in as they come down the corridor.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anybody else have questions for him? For him?
No.
Thank you. Brett.
Well, the only comment I wanted to make was just to kind of make sure it's clear to any of the public what exactly is being voted on here. The zoning for this property was determined several years ago and applications were submitted for this property several years ago. And so the council's not voting on a liquor store yes, liquor store no type thing. We are only voting on waivers, very specific waivers to a couple of details on the building. Just to make sure that's clear to anybody watching where our legal authority is on this specific matter.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 20, series 2023, a resolution approving town council waivers to the Timnath beverage site plan?
I move to approve, is it resolution number 20, series 2023, a resolution approving town council waivers to the Timnath beverage site plan.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Resolution number 20, series 2023, a resolution approving town council waivers to the Timnath beverage site plan. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.